Hey, y'all, what's going on? My ABC Read, ABC Learn family. Welcome to another story time brought to you by ABC Read and ABC Learn, in which we are here to help you develop and nurture that love of reading in every child as well as every adult. How are you doing out there today? Evening, we're early in the morning, middle of the afternoon, we're late at night, whatever time of day it is wherever you are around the globe. I hope that you all are doing absolutely swell, just groovy. And I hope that you all have read or your plan is to read for at least 30 minutes. And of course, that's why you are here, because you value reading. And for those of you, this is your first time watching one of our videos. ABC Read is the name of our nonprofit organization, and that is our mission. We are helping to develop and nurture the love of reading in every child as well as every adult, with a particular emphasis on Black children. All right. And ABC Learn is my tutoring business. I am a pre-K through third grade reading tutor slash reading motivator. And for those of you who do not know what a reading motivator is, that is someone who helps to get your child to even want to read, because that is the foundation of helping your child be successful readers. If they hate reading and they say things like, I don't like to read, I hate reading, reading sucks, it gets on my nerves, all of those different horrible things that we may hear from our children about reading, well, guess what? We have to get them to want to read in order for them to read more and more, because as we know, with anything that we do, the more we do it, the more practice with it, we become better at it. All right. And I am going again, I will be reading from this book here, Still in the Game by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Raymond Obstfeld. They are the authors of this chapter book. All right, so there are some things that's going on here. You got a lot of basketball. You got a kid who was beat up, and the police had to come and talk to the kid at school. So there's a lot of action going on in this book, and I just wanted to share with my parents and caregivers out there, if you are trying to think of ways to get your children, and in particular your boys, into reading, start off with action-packed books, all right? Because a lot of times that's what our boys gravitate to. They like a lot of action, a lot of stuff going on. All right. So that would be my suggestion. Also, I remember reading that in the Read Aloud Handbook by Jim Trelease. He talks about that as well in his infamous book that a lot of people go to when they're trying to get tips on reading aloud. All right. And this book, by the way, is, I would say, this is more like a fifth, sixth, seventh grade uh, level book, maybe, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grade. All right. It's a pretty easy read. And yeah, well, I think so far. But you guys let me know what you think. All right. So right now I'm on the third chapter. It is entitled Game Over. Game over, y'all. Ka-ching! Weston crowed as he sank another bank shot over Zach's head. He raised two fists high in the air. Kneel and worship your basketball king, puny mortals. Big deal, Zach said. Your arms are like a foot longer than mine. You've got ape arms. Yeah, but I'm an ape who can score. I'm Money, baby. Weston's nickname on the team was Money Man because he could hit the bank shot so often. Whenever he scored, someone would yell, Money Man just made another bank deposit. Or the short version, ka-ching! Daniel, who was already breathing hard only 5 minutes into the game, stood with the ball at the top of the key, panting. What's, deep breath, what's the score? 10-4, Roger said, grinning at me. Guess we didn't need you after all, Chris. Guess not, I said. Even though he was acting like a jerk, Roger wasn't a bad guy. He was big in every way. 6 feet tall and 180 pounds. He wasn't quick on the court. His nickname was Slow-Mo. But there was no one better at setting a pick and roll. When players banged into his brick wall pick, they were dazed just long enough for him to roll toward the basket for the pass. By the time the groggy kid remembered his name and what century it was, Slow-Mo was already steamrolling into his layup, and no one near the basket wanted to take a charge from Roger, no matter how many free throws they got. Ball in, Daniel said, and he tossed the ball to Weston. Zach, determined not to be humiliated again, Weston had already hit 6 bank shots over him, was doing some sort of crazy defense dance that involved jumping around and waving his arms like someone on a desert island trying to flag down a passing ship. Are you in training for the rodeo? Weston joked, because you're riding me like a bull. It's called defense, dude, Zach said, still jumping and waving. It might have looked weird, but it was effective. Weston tried to find an opening to turn and shoot his bank shot, but Zach was hopping around like he was on a pogo stick. Get off me, Zach, Weston said in frustration. I'm not touching you, Zach said. I could hear the delight in his voice at knowing he'd rattled Money Man. Weston passed the ball to Roger, who tried to use his 50-pound advantage to back me toward the basket. But I'd been guarding Roger in practice for a couple of years now. I knew how to handle him. The secret wasn't in holding my ground. He was too big for that to work. Instead, I'd keep jabbing a hand around him to swat at the ball. Left, then right, then left and left again. This scared him because I'd stolen the ball from him so often before. Usually he'd just stop dribbling and hug the ball to his chest until he could pass it. That's what he did now. Except Zach was still doing jumping jacks all around Weston, making it impossible for Roger to pass the ball to him. And just as Weston cut around Zach for the pass, I slid between Roger and Weston with my arms up, making it impossible for Roger to pass to Weston. So Roger did exactly what I'd wanted him to do. He passed to Daniel. Daniel was surprised because Roger and Weston had pretty much cut him out of all the plays, just passing to each other and shooting. They let him bring the ball in just to keep him from complaining. Daniel held the ball, confused about what to do next, so he shot it from the three-point line. The ball fell short of the basket by a foot. I dashed around Roger, snagged the ball out of the air, and fired it to Eric, who was waiting on the three-point line as I told him to. Daniel, still stunned by his wild missed shot, finally ran over to guard Eric. But I'd also cut to the three-point line far ahead of Slow-Mo. Eric threw me the ball and I quickly shot the three. The ball rattled against the rim a couple of times before dropping through for 2 points. Yeah, I know it's weird that we call the shot a three when you only get 2 points, but we like to use the same terms as the pros. 6-10, I said. We ran variations of that play 2 more times, with me shooting the three and scoring twice. That put us tied at 10s. Roger was getting a little tired from my full press on him. And Weston's frustration at Zach's crazy defense made him force a couple of shots that bounced off the backboard and then off the rim. We were able to take advantage of that lapse for me to score a reverse layup and for Eric to beat Daniel to the hoop for another layup. Then when Weston left Zach to double team me so I couldn't take another three-pointer, I bounced past to Zach, who sank a baby jumper. The score, 13-10. Like the good players they were, Roger and Weston adjusted. Roger didn't get flustered anymore when I tried to steal the ball. Weston directed Daniel to just stand in one spot about 8 feet to the side of the basket, then used the stationary Daniel as a screen to fire off his bank shot. He did this 3 times in a row, tying the score. 13 all, Roger announced loudly, trying to intimidate us. But I could hear the nervousness in his voice. He never expected the score to be this close. In the neighboring court, I saw Tad arrive. That's not his real name, just what I call him. It stands for Tiny Asian Dude. Tad was really old and skinny and shuffled when he walked. He neatly folded his jacket and laid it on the grass. He was bald except for a couple of scribbles of white hair on top of his head. He wore beige pants and a white shirt with black suspenders. He also wore old man sandals that had more leather than open space, like the ribs of a whale. He carried, he never dribbled, his ancient, beat up basketball to the free throw line and began shooting. He was terrible. When I first saw him about a year ago, I thought he was going to be some b-ball zen master making every basket blindfolded. Instead, he hardly ever made a basket. And even though he was out here nearly as often as me, he never got any better. Hey, Mr. Miyagi! Weston hollered and waved. Roger laughed. Weston called him that because he looked like a little like the teacher in the original Karate Kid movie. And also because Weston was the jokester of our team and had to say or do something funny every 15 minutes, or he'd probably faint. Tad turned, smiled, and waved back. Come on, let's play, I said before Weston felt the need to say anything else. Thing is, sometimes I felt like I had more in common with Tad than with these guys I was playing with, a few of whom I know most of my life. Tad comes down here every day to shoot baskets. He has to know that the kids who watch him are making fun of him. But he keeps coming and shooting and smiling. He's not thinking about winning or about playing high school varsity so he can get a scholarship or anything except tossing the ball toward the hoop. He just loves doing it. That's how I feel most of the time, or want to anyway. What's the score? Daniel asked again, standing at the top of the key with the ball. 13 all, Roger snapped. If you're not going to make any points, at least remember the score. Shut up, Roger, Daniel said. Me and Zach and Eric were here first. You didn't have to play with us. Roger started to say something, then stopped. I could tell he knew that he'd pushed Daniel too far and was regretting it. Like I said, Roger wasn't a bad guy, just an intense player. Just pass the ball in already, Zach said. Daniel bounced a lazy pass toward Roger. It was pretty much the same pass he made the last 4 times. Anticipating it, I darted out, intercepted the pass, and cut to the basket. Unfortunately, Roger was waiting for me. His intensity turned up to volcanic eruption. He slid his bulk between me and the basket. I tried to dribble around him, but he stayed with me with unusual speed. He wanted to win. More important, he wanted me to lose. Eric saw my dilemma and ran behind me, Daniel staggering after him. Facing Roger, I bounced past the ball backward between my legs to Eric. Using me as a screen, Eric shot the 8-footer for a point, putting us ahead. Up the slope, I heard Hoodie shout, "Yeah!" and saw him pump his fist in the air. Fohawk slumped angrily. Why did they care so much about our little pickup game? I wondered. 14-13, I said, checking the ball to Roger. He tossed it back and immediately got in my face, flapping like a taser chicken, so I had trouble seeing my teammates. I faked a pass to the left, then found Eric to the right. He dribbled toward the basket, but Daniel kept with him, determined not to be the cause of the loss. Eric shot the same 8-footer he'd shot before, but this one bounced off the rim. Weston spun inside Zach's defense and tossed an easy layup. 14s, Roger said. Next basket wins. Win by 2, Zach protested. Straight up, Roger said. We always play win by 2, Zach said. Right, guys? Mostly, Eric said. Mostly ain't always, Weston said. When did you join the debate team? Zach said sarcastically. Next point wins, I said, and that ended the discussion. I don't know why kids listen to me. It's not that I'm particularly smart. My grades are mostly B's and C's. And I'm not funny like Weston or clever like Theo, another guy on our school team. I don't threaten or bully like Roger. I don't make fun of other kids, and I don't hang with the popular kids at school. In fact, I hardly talk at all. I guess others see my silence as strength, but mostly it's because I'm afraid to say something stupid. Roger passed the ball to Weston, but Zach was jumping and swatting like he had angry bees in his pants. Weston and Roger kept passing the ball back and forth trying to get an open shot. They knew if they missed and didn't get the rebound, they might lose. Finally, too frustrated to wait, Weston forced his way in for a finger roll, but the ball nicked the rim and ricocheted to the side. I was about to grab it when I saw Daniel huffing and puffing toward the ball, his eyes wide with excitement, realizing that this was his chance to do one thing right. I don't know why I suddenly thought of Tad, whose missed shots we could hear like the steady patter of rainfall. Whatever the reason, I didn't grab the ball. I let Daniel pick it up. He seemed so surprised to find it in his hands. I thought he might just run off the court with it and be halfway home before he remembered the game. Weston shouted, "Pass it, pass it!" Daniel looked up at the basket, squinting at it as if it were a football field away. "Dribble in," I said. He didn't know who said it. Probably thought it was his inner basketball coach. But he did dribble in, instead of cutting him off and blocking his shot. I stood still and let him go around me. He was right under the basket for an easy layup. He just stood there, staring up. Zach launched toward him to defend the shot, but I slid into his way, blocking him. "Dude," Zach said, trying to squirm around me. I wouldn't let him. "Shoot," Roger said. "Shoot, Dan." And Daniel shot. Whoa, y'all. Hey, powerful chapter. That was a lot going on. It's so funny. Reading that chapter reminded me of like those basketball announcers. And I'm sitting up here, I'm like, oh my God, shoot to the left, shoot to the right, la, lay up. And I'm like, jeez, that is a lot of work. But that was a great chapter. I hope you guys felt that way as well. And again, if you all are just tuning in, this is your first time listening to one of our read alouds, you're going to have to go back and listen to the other two chapters, because I know you all, some of you all who are not, who've not been keeping up with the book are probably like, okay, what's this about? What's going on? All right. So I'm going to let you guys go back so that you can find out from the beginning of what's going on. But I will say this. I liked how Chris allowed for Daniel to go ahead and shoot his shot. All right. And that's something, I hope that's a lesson that you all take away from that chapter. You got to shoot your shot. And what do I mean by that? You have to basically put yourself out there. Take some risks, okay? Especially when it comes to reading, all right? There are kids out there who are afraid to even read a paragraph in class aloud. They're scared because they think they're going to mess up, they think they're going to stumble over some words, or because they just simply need help with their reading. But after reading this chapter, I hope you guys felt more empowered, more inspired, and said, you know what? It's all right even if I do mess up. I am who I am, and I need to take some risks. I need to shoot my shot. So make sure you all do that, all right? You all take care, and remember to please keep reading for at least 30 minutes a day. Like, subscribe, share our videos, and remember, reading family, read at least 30 minutes a day. Peace.